Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Daryl Show Your Work. And in this episode, we're going to be brute forcing a router and then exposing it to the external network. So before any sort of red teaming video that I do, I always preface it by giving a disclaimer here that anything we do is going to be for ethical and research purposes, and this is not for any sort of malicious intent, which I do not condone. So with that said, we're going to get started. So the first thing that we need to do in order to be able to successfully run all the commands we want to run, we need to switch to root. So in order to do so, and hold on, let me, before I do that, I'm going to change my font here so everyone watching can be able to more easily see what I'm doing. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to switch the root by doing a sudo su. All right, just asking for my password. So I'm going to give it that. All right, so I'm in root. The next thing that I'm going to do, as I did in a prior video, is I'm going to do an arp-scan. And just to briefly go over that again, what that's going to do is not only is going to not only is going to tell me what addresses, IP addresses are on the network, but it's also going to tell me which devices live there, and it's going to give me that information back in the form of MAC addresses, which is specific to a device. All right. So in order to do that, I'm gonna write arp-scan, and then I'm gonna tell it dash dash to scan the whole network, local net. All right. All right. So I got 3 hits back. So here's their IP addresses, and then also the MAC addresses of the device that lives there. All right. So the next thing that I'm gonna do, I have to choose a device to interact with. So let's say I'm going to go with device 102. All right. So let's see if that is the router that we're looking for. So I'm going to do an nmap scan, and then I'm not only going to do an nmap scan to see if the ports are open, but I'm also going to do a service version scan, which is going to return back to me not only the protocol located at that port, but also the version that it's running. And that could be very important because there are some vulnerabilities or some exploits that are specific to our versions of protocols. All right, so then I'm going to tell it what address I want to target. To All right, so it looks like we have a SSH port open, port 22 here, and the protocol is here. Then it tells us that it's running, the version that is running is Open SSH 8.2 P1. All right, and it's for Ubuntu, and this is the Ubuntu version that is for. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to change my directory, and I'm going to change it all the way back to the root directory. So not to be mistaken for the root user, but all the way back to all the way past home. I'm going to change my directory there, and you'll see. So you're going to see this disappear, and that means that I am in the root directory of this user. All right. So I did cd root. Let me see. I wonder what it didn't like about that. Let's see. Let's try that again. If that doesn't work, I know another command that will. All right. So we just going to do cd dot dot. All right. And then I'm going to do cd dot dot again. And that's going to take me all the way back to root. I'm not sure why that command didn't work. Okay, now I'm in the root directory. So from here, I am going to use the text editor to create a password list, and I'm going to use and I'm going to also use it to create a user list. All right, so this is something that's commonly done in a brute force attack. Usually, Kali though comes with its own word list pre-installed that common username, passwords that are installed that you can just if you know where those word lists are located, you can just start up a brute force attack um, based upon where those files live. If you already know where they are, and you'll run against whatever target you're targeting. But we're going to create our own today. So first, I'm going to open up the text editor here, and then since our current password list doesn't exist, I'm just going to, anytime you do nano and you put in a file name that doesn't exist, it's going to create it for you. And it's just going to be an empty file. So I'm going to call it passwords.txt, and it's automatically going to create that text file for me when I hit enter. All right, so I am in that empty text file. So we need to populate this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to populate this list for us with some passwords that I've already written out that are pretty common. All right, so I'm going to type that in here. Well, not type it, paste, excuse me. All right, then I'm going to hit Control X, and that starts the exit process. But it's going to ask me if I want to save. I'm going to hit Y to hit yes, and then I'm going to hit enter. All right, so that's the password list, and I'm going to do the same thing here for our user list. So I'm going to do nano, and we're going to call this list username.txt. Let me add an S here. Hit enter. That's going to again give me another blank um, text file. So I'm going to paste the usernames in here. All right. So hit Control X. Yes. All right. Now we're going to use a little application called Hydra. Again, that comes pre-installed within Kali for us, and that's what's going to conduct our brute force attack. So again, how Hydra works, I'm going to tell Hydra what password file to use and what username file to use to run against our 172.20.1.102 target. And I'm going to tell it to run it against that address. And I'm also going to tell it to run against port 22. All right. So then, since we know it's open, we want to be able to see if we can run this basically this different combinations of password against this port to see if we can get a return back on the actual credentials. So I'm going to start Hydra. So I'm going to do Hydra. All right, and then I'm going to say -L. That -L is me telling it what username list to use. So I'm gonna put usernames, excuse me, .txt, because that is the username list we're gonna use, and I'm gonna put dash capital P, and I'm gonna tell it passwords .txt because that's the password list we're gonna be using. All right, and then I'm also gonna tell it to do this and try to establish a SSH connection with 172, excuse me, dot 20.1.102. And then I'm going to put a dash, excuse me, dash T4. And so that dash T4 is just me telling Hydra when brute forcing the address how many parallel tasks to allow. All right. So I'm gonna hit enter and let's see what happens. Let's see, it didn't like that. All right. Oh, I have to spell Hydra right, don't I? All right. Let's try that again. All right. Looks like second time's the charm. Oh, we already got some credentials back. So we have a login username of admin and a password of admin. All right. So again, not very not very good passwords there, but it looks like we do have a credential combination. Let's just give Hydra some time to finish, which it just did. All right, so now with these new credentials that we have, we're going to try to log in with them. So I'm going to do SSH admin, since we know that's a username, at, so I'm going to put the address we're trying to go to, which is 172.21.102. All right, and when I hit enter, it should ask me for a password, and that's why I'm going to enter in that admin password. All right, there's the password request. So I'll put admin. All right, I'm in it. So it says main router. All right, so we were successful in that. So that is what a typical brute force looks like. So now I'm going to be playing with some of the router settings now that we're in there, because again, it tells us we're in the router because it says main router. All right, so to be able to enter into the configure terminal, um, we need to write configure terminal. Let's see if putting that request in works in order for us to start messing with the configuration settings. It looks like we were denied. So usually when that happens, that means you don't have the proper permissions to be able to do what it is that you're requesting to do. So since we're admin, there is something that we can easily do to be able to turn on the something called privileged exec mode, um, which will allow us to run the command um, that we're looking to run. So I want you to pay attention to where it says main router here, and something's going to change about it. Okay, so I'm going to simply write enable. Okay, so did you catch that? So this little greater than caret change to number sign hashtag, and so that means that we're in privileged exec mode. So meaning that we have the proper privileges now to execute administrative commands or to perform administrative tasks. All right, so this is how you know you're in the right mode. Okay. So now let's write that configure terminal again. All right, now we know it worked because now we have main router and then parentheses config, and we still have that number sign. So there's a couple of things that I want to do though before we start really messing with the configuration, because we need to do a bit of enumeration here. So I'm going to exit out of router config or config terminal. All right. So some things we're going to do first. We need to know what the interfaces of our router are. So it's going to display the different interfaces that it's using, and the amount depends on the number of interface cards installed on the router. All right. So in order to do that, and this is all going to be relevant information the further we go. I'm going to go do show interface. Okay, what didn't it like? Let's see if I fat finger something again. Show interfaces. Okay, I think I may have left the S off the last time I did it. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll up a bit. All right, so this is going to give us a lot of information about the different interfaces that are being ran here on this router that we can choose from to work with as far as opening up this router to the outside. But let's say we wanted this is a lot of information. So let's say we wanted to narrow this down, be it something that's more easily human readable, something that we could easily come back to and just get the little bit of information that we need. So in order to narrow this down a bit, I'm gonna just do show IP interfaces. All right, and then I'm gonna also write brief. Okay, didn't seem to like that either. Let me see. IP interfaces. So I wonder if I should take the S off of here. Let's try it without the S there. And that looked like that was the problem. Okay, so in order to run brief correctly, I have to take the S off of interface. Okay. All right, so this is basically shows us the amount of interfaces on what interfaces are running on here. It just gives us the little bit of information that we need to be successful and what it is we're doing. All the other information was a bit out of scope as far as what we're looking to do in this lab. So the next thing I want to do is I want to use a protocol called CDP, and this is a something called the Cisco Discovery Protocol. It operates at layer 2 of the OSI model, and it's going to display the information of the devices that the router is connected to. So basically, it the the command is CDP neighbors, and again, like the command says, it's going to just show who the neighbors are, who's in the neighborhood, what devices are there, and it's also going to give us some detailed information about the type of devices, which is going to be very helpful in our enumeration. So I'm going to put show CDP neighbors. Okay, so it looks like we have one neighbor here, which I mean, they pretty much named the device a switch, so I think it's safe to assume that it's a switch, but then we don't have to assume much because if we look at the key here that we're given, it and we look on the capability, it confirms that it's indeed a switch, S for switch. All right, so we know we at least have a switch that is connected to this router here. And switch, just helps move data throughout the network where the router moves data either outside between networks or outside the network. All right. So let's go back to our well, we're already actually in the privileged exec mode. So let's see what's current configuration settings are running. So I'm going to show running config. Let me see. It should have worked. Well, let's see. Let's okay. Let's try it in that setting and see. Running. Big. Huh. Okay. Well, then let's enable it again. Oh, okay. You know what? I need to actually do the config terminal to probably run that command. Okay, so we're back at configure terminal. So now let's see if we could do the show running config. That should be working. See, let me check my syntax here. See, why isn't that working? That should be working. Hmm. All right, let's go back up and check something up here. Let's see. All right, think I've. Let me see. Oh, I see. Okay. So let's exit out of here. All right, think again, I think it's my own syntax here. Okay, so let's do running, but I think I need to say, okay, left that out. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna just briefly go over that. Looked like that was the work. That was, excuse me, that was the that's what was causing it not to work, was that missing dash. So I'm gonna scroll up here. So you can see it's showing us our different workstations here that's associated with the associated with this router. So we can see the addresses and the host names. And then we also see something very important here. We see that we have a printer installed and a web server, and then we see some workstations. All right, so this is going to be very important as far as choosing further clients to compromise here, and to open this router up to the outside. So let's see if I wanted to confirm further that those are the devices, excuse me, that are running, that are connected to this router. All right, so what the excuse me, the hosts that are connected to it. All right, so I'm gonna say show IP DHCP binding. All right, so this is going to show me which host interfaces are assigned to specific devices. All right. All right. So I'm gonna hit enter. All right. So we have 102. We got excuse me 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, and these are the again the MAC addresses to those. All right. So this helps us with this confirms what we saw here in the configuration here, and then we also see when we scrolled through before, we saw the clear text password and the clear text username, which doesn't really help us since we're already in, but um, it just confirms some things we already know. So if I wanted to show specifically the MAC addresses, I'm just going to go to show ARP. All right, so this gives me the ARP information for dot one. All right, and then let's say I wanted to show just the actual host. Show host. All right, so by showing host, it doesn't just give me the IP addresses or the MAC addresses, but it gives me the actual host name, which in the host name often reveals their um their role within that network or that enterprise. So we know that we go by the order in which which the addresses are, that it looks like that dot six is the a web server. All right, and printer and dot five is the printer, and it's telling you the role. And these are just simply workstations. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go into back into configure terminal, because now we're going to start using this information that we were able to gather, and then we're going to start using it to open this router up. So configure terminal. All right. So we're in configure mode. All right, so the first thing I want to do is to tell the IP table, or think about it in terms of a firewall. I want to tell it to allow the router to reach any destination that it wants to. All right. So in order to do that, I'm going to say access dash list one permit 172.19. All right, since we know that this is the address format. All right, 0.0.0.20. Oops, 255.255. All right, any. All right, so I'm accessing the IP table here, which again acts as a firewall, and I'm telling it to permit this address to be able to access any destination, which this is the router's address. So again, that's not good, because then it could reach any address, including malicious ones. So it's going to override any other rule that tells it where it can and can't go, any sort of blacklist or whitelisting. So I'm gonna hit enter. All right. So then I'm going to begin to enable a NAT overload and bind it to the selected outside interface. So it's going to mask our private IP address while conserving public address space. All right, so in order for me to do that, I'm going to hit IP NAT inside source list interface. All right. All right. So now that we have that done, all right. Basically, we're going to start doing something called port forwarding. All right, so in order to perform the port forwarding, we first have to configure the internal interface configuration and then the external configuration interfaces, so it knows what is directing to go out and what is allowing, where it's allowing us to go. If we want to tell it to go to specific places. So I just mentioned something called port forwarding, which maps external IP addresses and ports to internal IP addresses and ports, allowing access to internal services from the internet. So basically, this would this would allow attackers to be able to basically access internal sources, and it could be a way too, if I'm an attacker, in order for me to maintain persistence from the outside, as long as these settings are configured the way they are. So in order to start, for us to start this configuration, again, we have to start internally. So I am going to, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the internal interface for port forwarding. In order for me to do that, say interface, gigabit, and I'm getting this gigabit Ethernet thing from up here, okay, where we did that ARP, where we showed the ARP information. This tells me the internal interface that I need to be working with. This gigabit Ethernet 00, and then the external is gigabit 001. All right, so that's what I'm going to be telling. This one I'm going to be configuring on this command line first is the internal one, the gigabit Ethernet 00. All right. Okay, so it looks like, okay, this is me starting to configure the internal interface. So I'm gonna hit enter. All right. So as you can see, it now says config.if. All right, now I'm going to write a command to translate the source IP address of packets that travel from the outside to the inside. All right, so I'm going to write IP NAT inside. All right, then I'm hit exit. All right, now I'm going to do the reverse, and now we're going to start working from the external interface. And again, going up a little bit here. Don't want to go up too far because we got a lot of, okay. So we're going to start working with, oops, okay, hold on. Put down a little bit more. Hold on, I wanted to show again those internal, external interfaces for as a point of reference. So now we're going to start working with the gigabit Ethernet 01. Okay, this is the one that we're going to be working with now to configure the external um, interface that we want the router to work with. All right, so I'm going to put interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1. All right, telling it what I want to configure. I'm gonna hit enter. All right, back in IF mode. All right, now I'm gonna say IP NAT outside. And again, this is to translate the source IP address of packets that travel from outside to inside. All right. All right. Now I'm gonna exit this. All right, so now I'm going to start to enable the port forwarding now that I've made my configurations. And we're going to on the command on a command that I'm going to type out, we're going to target specifically the .6 um, address here, because as we can see, that's the web server. So this is the machine or the device that's facing the outside, and that's what's going to give anyone we want to walk through the front door or the back door. This is where we want them to come, since this is externally facing, and this is the device that we're going to compromise. All right. So in order to begin doing that, to enable the port forwarding, I'm going to say IP NAT inside source and static TCP, and then first I'm going to give it the address of 119. All right, 06. All right, and then as you know, we're 172. What I'm sorry, the router is 172 20.1.102. All right, so this is going to enable the port forwarding. All right, let's see, what didn't it like that I wrote here? Oh, okay, I have to tell it the port. So unfortunately, I can't go through my history here, so I have to write it all back out and make sure that I get it all right as I write it in. 0.6 172.20.102. Now I need to tell it that we're using port 80. All right, so to do this through port 80. And so what this is going to do, remember that when we first got into this router, only port 22 was open. So now this is going to open up port 80, and we're going to confirm that. All right. Man, it still didn't like that. Okay, see static. See, what are you not liking about what I'm writing here? Check them. Give me a minute as I check my syntax here to see what I may be fat fingering. Let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna write it out on here. Let me just see. All right, then I'm gonna paste what I'm writing here. Would that give us a different result? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so oops, even in my okay. I have to tell it on both sides to use port 80 here. All right, so I have to tell it to use port 80 on the target side, which is the web server, and then on our side, which we are the router, to both use port 80, and this is what's going to open up port 80. We're going to run another nmap scan to confirm this. All right, that looks like that was the issue we were having. All right, so I am going to exit out of config, and I'm going to exit. In fact, I'm going to exit all the way out of this router for now. One more exit. All right, now we're back in root Cali. All right, so let's run that nmap scan before. Let's see if we have it in our memory. There we go. All right, so we're gonna run this this service scan again, and let's see if we get any different results when we run it again. All right, and we did. So like, now we see port 80 is open, and now we also have a version, an Apache. Looks like it's an Apache server, and it's running HTTPD version 24.41. All right, now that it's open, let's see what lives at that port 80 address. All right, let's see. So I'm gonna just type in my web browser here. All right. All right, so let's visit 172.20.1.102. All right, so let's see what's there. All right, so we did reach a website, but it looks like it's under construction. But at least we know that now from the outside we have access. All right, 'cause remember we're from the outside, because we just left the router, so now we're back on the outside. Now we can see that we can access this IP address through port 80 from the outside. All right, now I'm going to run a command where I'm going to tell SSH to listen on port 88, which is going to forward to port 80, and it's going to show us whatever is on port 80. All right. So, and it's going to make more sense as matter of fact, let me close this out so it's going to help make more sense. All right. Okay. So I'm going to do a SSH dash L, and I'm going to tell it port 8088 to colon. All right. And then I'm going to say 172.20.1.102 colon 80. All right, so I'm telling it the port, and now we're going to use these admin credentials, admin at 172.1.102. All right, and again, so I'm telling it to listen. I did a dash L, which tells SSH to listen on port 8888, and it's going to forward um, um, to port 80. So again, whatever is going to show whatever is on port 80, because those packets are being forwarded. Oh, excuse me, that port is being forwarded to port 80. All right. So I'm gonna hit enter. All right. So I'm putting my admin password. All right. Look, I'm back inside, and I'm back inside the router. Okay. So I'm going to then, now that I'm inside the router, I'm going to go back to Firefox. So as you can see, I was able to, again, it's a different method to log into the router from the outside. But let's say I just wanted to see what was, I'm going to, instead of putting in that address again, that router address, I'm going to put in local host colon 88. And I'm saying that, hey, take me to whatever is living at port 88. But remember, port 88 is forwarding to 80, so it should show me whatever is living on port 80. All right, so I'm gonna hit enter, and look at there, it took me right back to that website. So now again, this is a different way that I can access this website, um, and in case it was blocked or something. So how this and let's do one more command here. So I'm gonna exit out. Let me say SSH, and this should do the reverse hypothetically. All right, and this is for remote port forwarding that we're going to do. So first that was local port forwarding, what we just did. All right, so now we're going to do remote port forwarding. Let me see. Let me exit out of Firefox. All right, then we're going to tell it 80, 80. All right, then I'm going to put in those admin credentials again. So I'm going to tell it admin at 172, 20.1.102. All right, then it should ask me for my credentials. All right, so I'm put in admin again. All right, so I'm back into the router. So then let's see. All right. Let's go back into Firefox. Okay. So let's see. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm telling us the right thing here as far as how to do this, how to get into remote host. All right, let's see. Let's do remote host. 80. Let's see if that takes us to where we want to go. Nope. Okay, let's do remote host 8088. This part I'm not. Let's see. Nope, it looked like it didn't like that either. Let's see. Let's do localhost again. And this time we're going to do, I'm not going to do localhost 88. Let's do localhost 8080. No, it may give us the same result. So let's do, that just may be a different way. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, that gives us, so it's just another way of doing the same thing we did before. So you would just do localhost 88, but this, that command did before, instead of doing um, a local um, a local port forwarding, we basically did remote port forwarding, but you would still have to put in the same addresses we did to do the local report forwarding that we did with you had to put in the same address to do the remote port forwarding that we did to do the local port forwarding. So the kind of further break down the differences between remote port forwarding and local port forwarding. Uh, let's say um, um, local port forwarding. Let me, I'm trying to think of the best way that I could explain this. So users with access to the router would be able to view all content to port like 8080 on the local host in the in the port 88 router. And so let's say that if you're on the local host and there was a website if you're on the if you're on the local host and let's say you want to get around the firewall of the if you're internal to the network and you want to get around the local firewall, then the port forwarding would be how you would get around that firewall. Where if you're a remote host and let's say there was a website that was blocked, well then you would use a remote port forwarding then to be able to access said website because it's being hosted on the local intranet. So think local host, you're just trying to get around the firewall to go somewhere. Remote host, you're trying to view something that's if you're remotely, you're trying to view a website that might be blocked, and you're in a way you're doing it is by doing port forwarding on a local intranet. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of our video. Um, and please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time. Oh, and also, as always, show your work as well. And until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.